Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2019 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from Gilvry Speedway at 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. Tonight's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, and SVRA. A couple things we want to mention. We want to send congratulations out to Simon and Haley Pagano. They got married over the weekend, as well as Joseph Newgarden and Ashley Welch were married this weekend as well. We send our best out to them. Want to remind, turn this up louder, will you? Turn it up. Yeah, I can't even hear myself. Want to remind you that mark your calendar, November 16th. Beep Line will be here. Phil isn't listening. He's running his mouth, so he's not listening. But Beep Line will be here, and just remember, you're never on hold with Beep Line. Mark your calendar the 16th. You need dental work done? There's only one place to go, the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis have a phenomenal practice. If you need it done, call for reservation numbers 317-846-6125. And if you got computer trouble like I seem to have every day, it's like I'm having the sniffles of my computer. Got to talk to Computer Overdrive. They are the free checkup home. Call them up, tell them what you need. Make an appointment. The number is 317-328-0766. And in case you hadn't heard yet, James Hinchcliffe has been released from Schmidt-Peterson Racing, and he has been replaced by Patricio Award and Oliver Askew. It'll be interesting to see where is Hinch going. Don't know yet, but you got to figure that he and Honda will get together somewhere, somehow, some way. Now, my first guest who ran in here, he's got his tenny runners on. He's been out doing a little work, getting ready for the marathon in May. He is the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and a gentleman that I met when I first got here and started Autosport. I wanted to talk to the mayor. I thought it'd be interesting to see what it's like in the mayor, how racing benefits the town. And I said, how do I do that? And they said, you see that guy over there? I said, yeah, go see him. I said, who's he? He's the mayor's right-hand man, Lefty. I went over and talked to him, and I think 2 weeks later I had the mayor on here. Hell of a guy, and if anybody doesn't know who this is, they don't know what's going on. Please welcome Mr. Doug Boles. How did you manage to get tonight free? You're gone. You're busy all the time.
It's almost busier at the end of the season than it is in the season, because at least in the season I'm home. I'm here in town, but we traveling quite a bit, just trying to chase things down. Tonight it turned out to be a night I was in. I was supposed to be giving a speech tonight. That got canceled, and so it worked out fine. So I've actually I was looking on my phone. I did 116 flights of stairs after work. I walked out of the office about a little bit after 5 with a trash bag and started walking up and down the steps, starting from E Paddock, and worked my way down and underneath the tunnel into the pagoda. And it's amazing how many things blow out through the wind, and I just pick trash up, and then I've got tons of photos I take on my phone and shoot them to the facilities guys, and just things I see. It's 275 acres. It's a 110-year-old facility, and something you can't keep up with it, right? So just making a list of things we want to make sure we've got sorted out for next year. So I do have my tennis shoes on, because it's a lot easier to walk those stairs in tennis shoes than in my normal shoes.
Plus, it keeps you in shape.
It does sort of keep me in shape, correct. And I'm not ready to run the Mini. My wife, however, is probably ready to run the Mini, so she is the one in the house that stays in shape.
I texted Doug about 2-3 weeks ago and said, "Are you available next Tuesday?" And it took about an hour, 2 hours and a half, and I got a message back. He said, "I'll get in touch with you. I'm in the mountains. We're getting ready to leave." I went, "Oh, okay."
So I got to escape for a little while, and everybody in here will appreciate this, especially those of you that have been around for a while. So Carter, who's now 17 and a junior, is thinking about the Air Force Academy. So we decided to scoot out, and he did a tour of the Air Force Academy, went through sort of their intro program to see if that's something he wanted to do. And we'd never been to Telluride before, so that's when you caught me. We drove the 6 hours to Telluride and drove the 6 hours back, and just enjoyed that. But I had a chance to go to Pikes Peak International Raceway. So some of you that were around in our Indy Racing League days when we went to PPIR in the early 2000s, one of the guys, one of the part owners there that owns it, we went down, and he has created a Mazda Miata that he called a friend of his in Europe and said, I need a right-hand drive steering column, and I want a right-hand drive dash. So he took the dash and the steering column out of the car he purchased and put a right-hand steering and column, but left the pedals on the left side. So it's a two-seater thing, so you have to do it together. So Carter started the pedals, and I drove, and then we switched. It was just and then I did it with Beth, which was absolutely fascinating. And at one point in time, I'm steering, and Beth is driving. We're going through this little chicane. I'm saying, "Don't you lift? Don't you lift? Don't you lift?" As we're trying to, go faster and faster. But the folks at Pikes Peak, it was pretty cool to go out there. Just the memories of the days in Indy Racing League when we went out there. They don't have safer walls, so they can't host an IndyCar race or a NASCAR race, but they've got a lot of really cool things going on out there. In fact, a lot of the autonomous stuff or semi-autonomous stuff like Aero is doing, it takes place down there. So they have a lot of the same stuff that you saw when Sam Schmidt was driving the Corvette. They've got a lot of that in NASCAR Cup cars down there that they're actually, the Furniture Row guy obviously was based out there. So a lot of his old cars are there, and they're doing a really cool job at really trying to advance that technology that Aero's been so involved in. So it was a lot of fun to go down there, and it was really kind of fun to get in a car and let somebody use the pedals for you or steer and see how well you could communicate with each other when you're trying to go faster.
It's no secret that within the next couple of weeks, they called the lights at the Brickyard will kick off. And I saw last night a tweet from Mark Janes that he was out walking the grounds. I don't know, was he a supervisor of some sort? But he was out walking the grounds, and a couple of pictures he showed. Now they told me, the major told me, I think last year or the year before, that they have 2.5 million lights, and I said it's much bigger this year than it was last year. It's got to be way more than that. Now they're saying 3 million. Plus they're going to have the pagoda area open for something. So what's that?
Yeah, so we're going to be about 3.2 million lights, I think, this year, and then an out-of-car experience on some of the weekend nights where you can actually park your car, get out. We'll do hot chocolate and drinks and sort of a winter theme in Pagoda Plaza, and the opportunity to go up in the pagoda for folks that have never been up in the pagoda and get a hot chocolate up in there. So just an opportunity to get out of your car, take some pictures along the yard of brick, and just hang out at the Speedway more than just driving through and sending you on out. And we are in the middle of building light displays. In fact, tonight as I was walking, the Borg Warner light display is placed and ready right at start-finish line. So we're making some progress.
Where does all the power come from? I've had my window open. I don't hear generators running, but it's got to be somewhere.
It's the beauty of LED technology anymore, right? You don't need nearly the power that when we thought about growing up and how much it took to light Christmas trees. It's not as much as you think. So we're in pretty good shape. We do have a few generators that we have out there, but most of it we can do with shore power.
Really? Motorcycles are coming back. Was that a tough decision for the Speedway to do, or did they like what they had in the original? Now, this is an American series. It's not the World Series that was the MotoGP that was here.
Right. So it's Moto America. No, bringing motorcycles back was not a difficult decision for us. We love having motorcycles. Dorna and MotoGP just got to a point where A, it was too expensive for us, and B, what we thought was too expensive was too inexpensive for them. They have countries that are willing to pay 2 and 3 times what a privately held company could do. So for us, we've always wanted to have motorcycles back, and as AMA became Moto America, and then as Moto America was getting their feet underneath them, we've always been in conversation with the folks at Moto America, and it was just sort of the right timing. They've got some momentum going. Their highest level class is a really great competition class. It's got some really great talent in it. Now they're going to bring all 5 of their classes to the Speedway, and it's going to be on Motorcycles and Meridian weekend when Indianapolis is focused on motorcycles anyway. So we're excited to have them back. We're excited to support them, and we'll see how it goes. I think we'll have a pretty decent crowd of people who come out who love motorcycles, and it really, I think I've told you before, one of the things that we do is we look at things not just through the lens of how does this impact the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but we look at it, how does it impact the Speedway, and then immediately, especially Main Street and on out to Crawfordsville Road, the businesses here, and then how does it impact downtown. And if we can figure out that we can get out of an event and break even, but it benefits the community, especially Main Street and downtown, then we want to do it. And we feel like this is one of those events that's great for our community, and we're excited about trying it again.
Has the WeatherTech series been explored? Have they contacted you, talked to them? Is there any chance that they may show up at some point?
So we talk to Scott all the time. Obviously, Scott retiring now, and the challenge for for WeatherTech, I think, is they don't want to do a standalone event, and because our place is so big, and they're fearful that a standalone event will look like nobody's there. I mean, we see in a Brickyard 400 that's 65,000 people inside the venue, it looks like nobody. So if you think of a sports car race that draws 20 to 30,000 people, it would even look worse, and they just don't feel like that's a good display for them. So they want to pair with somebody. We're still pretty committed to the IndyCar Grand Prix being about the Indy 500, leading up to the Indy 500, and those drivers in the latter series that someday want to compete in the IndyCar series, and not letting it become partially sports car. So as long as we keep that focused, there really isn't a good weekend. We've talked about maybe with the move of Brickyard to July 4th, should we look at putting sports car on the road course, maybe even Xfinity on the road course and Cup on the oval. But I think that's probably, it's not a 2020 conversation. It's a 21 or 22 conversation for that one. But I think there could be some momentum in that. When we did the Super Weekend previously, where we had sports cars on Friday night's just not a good night to have racing, and people are coming off work, so it needs to be Saturday or Sunday. And in my mind, if you're going to bring prototype cars, it needs to be a proper sports car endurance race. We can't do a 2-hour and 45-minute sprint race. It needs to be the 642 or something like that that is a true endurance race. I'm excited about the GT Challenge we're going to have next October, because they're going to bring an 8-hour endurance race to the Speedway. And while it's not prototypes, I think it'll be a really fun race with a lot of great race cars.
Does the Speedway get contacted frequently about, hey, we'd like to have our event here? Can we have our event here? Is there a chance we could do? Do you get a lot of that?
10 times a day.
That all?
So there are everybody that hosts a run, everybody that does a charity event, want to host things at the Speedway. And while there's a ton of good causes out there, we've really tried to remain focused on we're the world's largest single-day sporting event with the Indy 500. The mini marathon is either the most attended or most participants in the mini marathon are second. It's kind of head-to-head with Vegas and an event that they have in Vegas. We want to do marquee events, and our fear is if we do too many of those, you begin to dilute that product, and then it's not valuable for anybody. So we're trying to stay focused on just a handful of charitable events that we do that with, and so it's hard to say no to folks because there are a lot of great causes out there. But I think in order to maintain the integrity of what the Speedway stands for and what the events that we've really committed to, trying to make sure that they're successful, we're better to really limit the number of opportunities that we have to do that.
I brought this up a couple times, and I'll do it again. The first time I had Mark on here, and it was maybe 6 months after he became the CEO, we're talking, and I said, has it crossed anybody's mind that you have other events other than the 500 in the Brickyard? And he said, no, this is a race venue. It's not what can be done. Well, that didn't last long, because then here they bring in the band. I just forgot the name of the band.
Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones, yeah. I said, now you said you wouldn't do it, and you did, and you brought in the #1 rock band in the world. Now, how do you follow that one up? Well, they've done it, and you've had some good entertainment come in. Has that worked out for the Speedway, bringing in name talent like that?
Well, certainly the Rolling Stones event worked out, and we haven't had one since then, right? And part of the problem is, how do you follow the Rolling Stones? There's just a handful of bands that you can do that. And frankly, our challenge is, unless it's somebody that's going to draw 55,000 people like the Rolling Stones, financially it doesn't make sense for us, because we're not a concert venue. So we have to build a stage. We have to do the sound. All the things that we have to build. By the time you're into just building the stage and putting everything together, we're well into 7 figures before you can even put a band on there. And then you have to pay the band their fee. You have to set up for all your concessions, all the things that you have to put together. The Stones event, before we sold our first ticket, we're well over $5 million upside down. So you have to hope you can sell enough tickets to get there. So if you were to bring in, pick any sort of mid-tier artist right now, you could never even break even, because by the time you've built your stage and you've done all the things you have to do and paid your artist, you're not going to sell enough tickets for it to make sense. So for us, then all of a sudden you're really limited in the number of bands that you can try and host. I think I've told you guys before that after the Stones, Guns N' Roses was just getting ready to come out, and they hadn't played forever, and they were coming out. We actually tried to buy the second Chicago date, and we'd done a pro forma on, okay, here's how much the stage is. Here's kind of projecting a low, medium, and high in terms of tickets we thought we'd sell. sort of the tier on where the pricing would be. And then we figured out, okay, here's how much of a band fee we can pay. And unfortunately, we couldn't get within $700,000 of what Live Nation wanted from us to pay the band. And at that point, you can't. We already were thinking, okay, this is going to be hit us on our low mark, and now they're $700,000 away. That makes you way lower than your low mark. So the challenge is just finding the right band. And bands like that go for just the band, not the stage and all the other stuff you have to do, somewhere between $4 and $10 million. And when you don't have seats, and then we felt this in the Rolling Stones, right? We sold 55,000 tickets, but a lot of people didn't come because we didn't have seats. So you had to stand. So you lose that ability for. It's not like the Snake Pit. Under 30 kids don't care about seats, right? They want to stand right on top of each other. Most of us like to have a seat, a little space that we know is ours, and when the guy bumps us, we say, "Hey, man, that little line there, I'm telling Mom if you cross it again," right? So it's a challenge for us, even in our carb day anymore. So even the 80s rock bands who used to be, if you spent $100,000 on a rock band in the 80s, for an 80s rock band 10 years ago was a ton of money. Bob Seger's getting $1.2 million, right? And he's not even an A artist. So it really limits your ability. I'm sorry if anybody's a Bob Seger A artist fan. Sorry about that. But that's the challenge we have. And then you have to worry about routing, because if they're going all over the world, you got to fit it into a date that works for their travel. And then you have to figure it in a radius clause. So in order for us to have gotten the Guns N' Roses thing, if we'd paid the fee, we also had to get the venue, the Chicago venue where they were playing, to release the promoter from a radius clause. And that radius clause basically says that you can't play in a market usually somewhere within 120 and 180 miles within either 3 or 6 months on either side of the concert. So when you start going through all those things, it's a challenge. So Luke Bryan's a perfect example. I ran into Luke Bryan at the SEMA show. Chevy introduced me to him at the SEMA show a few years ago, and I said, "Hey man, we'd love to have you play Legends Day. It's this really cool concert." And he's like, "Oh man, I played the Indianapolis Motor Speedway when I was just starting out. I would love to come be part of that. That's awesome. Here's my manager." I meet the manager. We talk. He said, "I'm sure we could do this. This is fantastic." So this is 3 years ago. So it's taken us 3 years to finally get to a point where his routing and all the different things work out for him, for us to get Luke Bryan to finally come here. So it's not as easy as it seems like it should be. So it's a money question, it's a date question, and then it's a radius clause question.
Well, at the Speedway in May, you have, I drive in between 300 and 400, come under, and I look at here, they're building this huge stage. So you do that anyway. So you ought to be able to have figured out, now we can get it in and get it done up relatively easily. I worked for a hotel chain. I used to book talent for them, but I had a couple of managers I talked to, and as they come past, we're right on Interstate 80. And as they're going from point A to point B, they'd stop. We get them cheap, relatively. But I would guess the talent you're looking for, some of the ones we got were great in the 50s and 60s, so their price isn't that big. But it seems to me, and from the people that I've talked to, when I see them walking, what brought you here? Well, we want to see whoever the entertainer is. Think you'll come back? Yeah, this is kind of cool. All the cars. Has that worked? Has the Snake Pit, has that translated into sales for the race as well?
So Carb Day and Legends Day and Snake Pit are all sort of different. Carb Day is party day in Indianapolis. So you have people who've come in for the weekend and they're coming to Carb Day, or people in Indianapolis. So a lot of people in Indianapolis said that's their race day. They take Carb Day off and they pack their cooler and they come watch the Freedom 100 and pit stop competition in the last practice, drink a bunch of beer, and then they go stand and listen to whatever band we've got. At some level, they don't care, right, as long as they're playing some songs that they can sing along to. So it's a little bit of a different crowd. Legends Day is 70% people who love country music and aren't coming to the Indy 500. The other 30%, it's either they're coming to the Indy 500 and they're in town, or they love country music and they're coming to the 500. And then when you look at Snake Pit, it's a completely different crowd, right? It's 30 and under. They're coming to the Snake Pit almost exclusively for the music. And our challenge, and I've said this forever, our challenge is how do you transition those folks from Snake Pit music people to this is what I do on Memorial Day weekend Sunday, and I'm going to either quit going to the Snake Pit and just buy a ticket with my buddies and sit in the grandstands, or we've been trying to price the lower half of the North Vista just $10 more than a GA ticket, because we would love for somebody to say, you know what, I'm going to buy that ticket. I'm going to watch the start of the race there, hang out there, and then when whatever artist it is at the Snake Pit I like, I'm going to go down to the Snake Pit and watch that artist, and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and watch the race. And we are beginning to see, slowly, but we're beginning to see that transition starting to happen. It's not totally unlike the old Snake Pit, the real Snake Pit, where people came to drink beer and do whatever else they did, and then ultimately it got to a point where they grew up and they said, this is what I do on race weekend, and I'm going to still hang out here and continue to go. I can't tell you how many people I talk to in my calls every night who started out in the Snake Pit, and when they're honest with you, they say, I don't really remember watching much of the first race I came to because I was my older brother or whatever and ended up in the back of a station wagon, passed out. But that was the tradition that they had, and they started coming to the 500. The interesting thing about the Indy 500 is 75%, between 70 and 75% of our ticket purchaser doesn't watch another race the rest of the year. So it's not they don't attend one; they don't watch another race the rest of the year. They love the 500. They know their 500 facts and their drivers. They're not really race fans. They're event fans. And one of the challenges we have is how do we take that big base of folks and convert them? If they just watch one IndyCar race a year, it would make a difference in IndyCar's TV rating. So we're trying to get them to watch other IndyCar races, just like we're trying to get a Snake Pit customer to buy a ticket to come to the race. So there's all kinds of moving pieces, and you try and get people out of their comfort zone or sort of their tradition or routine, and get them to do something a little different. It's not just music; it's across the board at everything at the Speedway.
And it seems to me you've got somebody who's very slick at that and knows her way around. Allison, she knows the people, she knows entertainment, she understands it and how to make it happen. And I think she's doing a great job.
So Allison and I spend 40% of our day together, either in meetings or running stuff by each other. It's the nice thing about Allison is she understands events better than anyone. And it's all she's ever done her whole life. And she's not a racer. So those of us who've been in racing forever, we have our idea of what racing should be like. And sometimes when somebody comes from the outside, it's almost offensive when they say, "Hey, what are we about this, the X, Y, and Z?" So the great thing about Allison is she comes in with a lot of great ideas, but comes in with a lot of great ideas and the credibility because she has done so many events to help make us better. She challenges us every day and is a fantastic partner. And by the way, I brought two things in. I normally don't have props, but you always introduce me on the mayor thing. So I have a letter I want to read that's sort of like the mayor thing. But first, since we're talking about Allison, one of the great things about being the last guy in the office, and when you share a printer with some folks, when they print something and they forgot they printed it. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with this thing. It says tips, and they've taken a picture of some guy in jorts and really skinny legs and put my face in a tie on it, and it says tips. So I'm going to find out in the morning what that's all about, because that's definitely not something that came from my computer. It's a good thing I have a sense of humor, but I do at least have a tie on, so that works. And it looks like it's either the Snake Pit. No, that must be like one of the Carbide concerts, but it's tips for something, but they seem to be having fun. And there were like 10 copies of this on the printer, so I'm not exactly sure. But so you mentioned about my days with the mayor. So one of the things I did with the mayor was try and attract businesses to relocate to Indianapolis. And it was a tough job, right? And when you're trying to get people to uproot, and so you had to have the town, the city, we all had to put things together. And Derek Walker and his team was really the first company we got to relocate here from Pennsylvania. So the other day, this is on last Thursday, I got an email from somebody named Van Rogerson. I'm going to read it to you, and I'll read you my response because it was fun. Doug, I am in attending the SEMA 2019 in November and was hoping you could direct me to the correct person within Indianapolis Motor Speedway. First of all, you get those emails from overseas and they want to get you, and it's a spam thing when the writing's, when the grammar's not correct. So that was the first sentence. Then he says, "We are an economic development group from North Carolina and wanted to discuss the great incentives and business benefits for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in eastern North Carolina. We're trying to connect with companies that are in expansion or relocation mode and would consider eastern North Carolina to relocate. We would love to meet even if you're in the early stages and simply interested in having an exploratory conversation. I only need about 20 to 30 minutes to go over in details and our incentives and programs so that you can decide if you want to relocate to North Carolina. I think you would find it very beneficial. Simply reply with a few good times for you to meet." Respectfully, Van Rogerson, Senior Vice President of the North Carolina East Alliance out of Greenville, North Carolina. At first, I thought it was a joke, and then I Googled the guy, and it's true. This is what he's recruiting folks, right? So he clearly doesn't know what we do. And I thought, I'm just going to delete it. I thought, no, I want to have some fun with this. So I said, Mr. Rogerson, it's likely pretty hard for me to move the 1,000 acres, 235,000 permanent seats, 3.2 million bricks, and 110 years of motorsports history to eastern North Carolina. And our 350,000 spectators expect the racing to take place at 16th and Georgetown. The Eastern North Carolina 500 doesn't have the same ring either. Final thought. If you're looking to relocate Midwest companies, you might focus on companies in places like Illinois instead of Indiana. Our state has a pretty robust economy, aggressive program to attract and retain businesses, and a focused motorsports development effort. But thanks for the offer. Happy to say hello at SEMA, though, as I appreciate communities that are focusing on growing the business of motorsports. Thanks again, Doug. So there you go. I have gotten no response.
Really?
No response.
Oh, boy. Well.
That's what I did at 9:22 on Thursday night.
It is said, and it's true because you've done it for me, that every night on your way home, whenever that might be, you make calls to people, ticket holders, and just say hello, thanks, and so on and so forth. And I know he does it because I gave him a name of a friend of mine who's been coming here since 1954. And he called him, and he got him. He was at Home Depot. And his wife said, you got a call from somebody. So he hands him the phone, and it was from you. He said, I'm going to tell you honestly, excuse me, for him calling, I got teary-eyed. The president of the Speedway called me. I said, gee, I wonder how that happened. Your name just fell out of a hat, apparently. But it does make an impression on people that you take the time to do that.
Well, I'm like everybody else in this room. First of all, I'm a race fan before I'm the president. And that, to me, the most important thing to do is thank race fans, because it's not easy to go to the Indianapolis 500. It's not easy to be passionate about it all the time. And we all, as fans, deserve the thanks for going. So that was really the reason I started. And I'll tell you a little secret that hopefully my wife is not watching. I've taken it one step further. So if we escape, so like when we went to Colorado, I asked the ticket team to, better examples, Laguna Seca. So I flew out to Laguna on Friday night and was there for Saturday and Sunday. And I asked the ticket team to give me ticket customers in Monterey County and sort of the counties around Monterey. And that week I made calls to those customers. And then I invited them all to have coffee or dinner or a drink, which then gets in the way of travel with my wife. So last year at spring break, we went to Big Sky to go skiing. And so I asked for the customers near Big Sky. And we spent the whole first day meeting customers for coffee, lunch, and dinner in Bozeman before we drove to the mountains. But that's how passionate I am. And frankly, my wife's that passionate about it too because she's a fan. But I want fans to know that we care, we love them. It is a sacrifice, especially in this day and age when you can stay home. Even those of us in central Indiana, you can find a way to pirate the Indianapolis 500. You can listen to it on the radio, frankly, and just watch it on TV that night, which is maybe even a better way to do it. So that's why I do it. I want people to know that it matters. We notice, and that's why I spend all race day walking in the grandstand, shaking hands, and saying thank you to customers and not hanging out in suite, because the most important thing we have at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway are the 300,000 plus people that show up there every single year for 103 years, and next year for 104 to celebrate the greatest spectacle, not just in sports, but in events in the entire world.
When you finally got permission, your parents said you're old enough now, we don't have to take Pampers along with us. Did it ever cross your mind that one day I want to be president of this place? Did it ever enter your thoughts?
No, and that didn't enter my thoughts when I first started working at the Speedway. I was so honored just to work at the Speedway on the communication side and just help promote it. And in fact, I had no idea that this was even really a possibility until Jeff Belskis and Mark said something to me in early of 2013, and even then I still didn't believe that this would ever actually happen. And I'm forever grateful to them, and it's been a crazy ride, and there's not been a day that I've walked in that Speedway and I haven't been thankful and feel. I mean, I don't deserve to be here. I mean, this is one of those jobs that is, it's Wilbur Shaw kind of job. It's Carl Fisher kind of job, or Eddie Rick. You think about the people that have been president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm 1/10 of who those people are, and for me to be able to every day. And by the way, tomorrow is the anniversary of losing Wilbur Shaw, and the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow, I've got 3 pictures framed that I'm going to take and put out in the Yard of Bricks and let them be there, because that's where Wilbur Shaw belongs, is on our Yard of Bricks. I still can't believe that I'm in the position that I'm in.
But you know what? As long as I've been coming around here, and I mean, I've been here with John Cooper was president. And
another great name, right? I mean, Coop was, talk about a motorsport icon, not just here, but across all motorsports.
Oh, yeah. I used to get a kick out of it. He would be at home in his later years and watch the Daytona 500. He said, I call up Bill France and tell him, you know what you're doing wrong. We talk on the phone during the race. Great guy. But, as long as I've been around, I don't recall anybody treating the 500 or the Speedway the way you do. I mean, most of them have been in an office. A couple of them, you're lucky if they said hello to you. But I think you brought something new to the Speedway. I think you brought attention that people now realize that the Speedway does care, because you take the time to tell them and listen to them. And I think that's phenomenal. I think that's what this place needs. I know ticket sales for the 100th were spectacular. Is it building back up to that again? Is this year coming
good? So obviously we sold out in 2016. So our measuring stick really has been 2015. So if you take 2016 out, 17 was better than 15, 18 was better than 17, 19 was, we just eked out a little bit better 19 than 18. Our renewals for next year are a ton stronger than they were last year, which tells you that 20 is going to be significantly better than 19. I would love to get back to a point where we're selling the Indy 500 out, not just because it's the 100th running, but because it's the Indianapolis 500, and that's really our focus. But when you have over 235,000 permanent seats and 75 to 100,000 people in the infield, it's a hard job to get there. And we're still the world's largest single-day sporting event. It's going the right direction, and no matter, and you guys know this when you travel. If you say you're from Indianapolis, people know the Indianapolis 500, and there's an awful lot of pride we have in that. I got to do a really cool thing this past weekend. The 4th USS Indianapolis was commissioned in Burns Harbor, which is just north of Portage on Lake Michigan, on Saturday, and it is right now on the way from that port in Burns Harbor to the Atlantic. It'll get in the Atlantic sometime in November 12th. It's a mine-sweeping ship with about 80 crew members on it, and the entire ship inside is Indianapolis themed. So they have a original brick from the Speedway. The captain's quarters has the BorgWarner on it. It's got Indianapolis Motor Speedway wing and wheel on it. It's got the pagoda on it. There's all kinds of racing theme throughout. We gave him a nose cone. We gave him a bench from the Speedway, and it's pretty neat to know that the most important thing we do on Memorial Day is remember those people that have given the ultimate sacrifice. Those 90 seconds of back home again in Indiana mean so much, but everything leading up to it, that military march is so important. And the idea that we've got the USS Indianapolis, the 4th one, going out, and it's got Indianapolis 500 stuff on it. So you get a chance to interact with all these crew members from everywhere. And many of them got to come to the 500 this year and talked about how they'd always heard of the Indy 500. So we're creating advocates there. The captain says he's going to make everybody on the crew memorize the first 100 winners of the Indy 500 because they're on the nose cone. So so we're creating some fans that way. But this year, not only is the 75th anniversary of Tony Hallman purchasing the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's also the 75th anniversary of the sinking of the 2nd USS Indianapolis. 4 of the 12 remaining survivors were there this weekend, and we're going to invite all the survivors to come back in May, and hopefully we'll have some of them around, because the most important thing we get to do on that day is celebrate men and women who've served. And it's really cool to me that the Indianapolis 500 brand is on a ship that's defending our country as we speak with the USS Indianapolis banner.
One of the neatest things that I've been coming here since 1964, so I'm just a kid at this. But a couple of years, I forget, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, you had 103 Medal of Honor winners. You have to shake hands with every one.
Very cool.
Excuse me. Never thought anything like that would happen. but it's an honor to have done that. And the stuff that you guys do is phenomenal. I think the growth of the sport, the growth of the cars and the speeds and so forth are getting exciting. Of course, now a lot of talk is 2021 comes a new engine, 100 and some horsepower, faster. That's what it's about, speed.
It is about speed, and especially if you look back in our history, and you watch the progression of, if you just look at newspaper headlines the day after the 500 or the day after qualifying, it was really always about new records being set. And while we haven't been able to really do that since 1996, I get why. It would be fun if we can get back to the point where you could hear a recording of Tom Carnegie say, or whoever the new Tom Carnegie is, say it's a new track record. And it sounds like Jay and the team are working towards getting us there.
Well, I'm sure they will. Well, it's that time for you to go bye-bye. I appreciate you taking the time to come here. I know the influence of your dad, in particular your mom and dad, getting you here, I think, is phenomenal. My hat is off to the judge. How's he doing, by the way? Out of the bench, what is he
I would have
doing?
been in here a couple minutes earlier, except that I was doing my daily call to my parents. So I was talking to them. They were just driving. They'd been down in Florida for a few days, just driving in the driveway. He's doing fine. Mom's doing fine, and they escaped for 5 or 6 days to get some warm weather.
Yeah, well, does he ever want to grab something and hit the table? We're looking for the.
It's for those of you that know him away from the bench, you would not know he's a judge. It's not his personality to hit a table or to. And when he's at the house, especially as the kids were little, he's on the floor, playing with kids, and it was always odd for me to walk into a courtroom and see him on a bench in a robe doing his judge thing, because that's completely foreign to the dad I knew and the dad that supported me for 53 years.
He's still supporting you? Good for him.
Well, yeah, he's yes.
Well, it's always a pleasure to see him. Good guy. Your mom, nice lady, very friendly. Always says hello. And I look around to see if anybody's looking. I don't want to embarrass her, But I thank you for your time. Thank Beth for letting you sneak out again. And I look forward to talking to you next year sometime. I know we'll find something maybe prior to the 500. Bring you back.
Sounds good. Is Ricardo here?
Yes. He's right there.
There he is.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't met Ricardo, this is an unbelievable story of a guy who is as passionate as all of us in this room about our sport. I got a chance to meet him when Connor was driving for him back in the Mazda days. And it's been so fun to watch him. Last year, I know that race day didn't end up the way that he wanted it to end up, but there isn't a better David and Goliath story than the end of qualifying last year in the Indy 500. And there's not a nicer person than Kyle Kaiser, except maybe Ricardo. And I was so excited for you and to watch your crew hugging each other and having so much fun. I only wish your day had lasted longer, but it's so fun to watch you, and I'm so excited that you're part of our community, and we just hope to see you in victory lane someday, not just getting in the field at the Indy 500, but thanks for all you continue to do for our sport.
And that, the president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, thanks for being here, Mr. Doug Boles. As my next guest works his way up, I will remind you that if you want to find out what's so great about driving an Indy car, you can take a ride in a two-seater. The Indy Racing Experience has a car. They give you a good ride. It's great, and there's only been one or two times that somebody has pulled the stop pin. But, it's phenomenal. If you want to make a reservation, you can go to IndyRacingExperience.com, find a date, and in the promo box put SJ1, and you will get yourself a 50% discount. Or you can call Shonda at 317-243-7171 and book yourself a date with her. She'll be happy to take care of you. I want to remind you, it's that time of year. The Christmas Gift and Hobby Show is upcoming. 5 days of it starts Wednesday, November 6th, runs through Sunday, November 10th. And there's all kinds. It's the biggest holiday shopping in the area. They got you get to watch the elves in action. You get your picture with Santa Claus, and it opens on Wednesday and Thursday from 10 to 8 at night, Friday and Saturday from 10 to 9 at night, and on Sunday, the last day, 10 to 5. So if you get a chance to get out there, and for those of you in-house, if you would like a ticket or two, I have some, strangely enough. So see me after the program and we'll make it happen. Also want to remind you that if it's time for you to buy insurance for your home, your car, your commercial property, do what I've done and many have done and found I was right. VP Insurance can take care of you. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street. Give them a call, make an appointment, come down and see them, see what you can do. You'll find out you'll get better coverage for less money. Number is 317-248-0070. And if you are a vintage car fan, you've got to subscribe to Speed Tour. Just go to svra.com and subscribe. It's a great magazine, first class, and they got some great stories and some of the cars you knew growing up. You'll find out they're still alive and well. And should you want a vintage car, or if you have one and need it restored, there's only one place to go. Of course, that's the Grant King shop. They can build the car, restore the car for you, and they can have the engine redone as well. So give them a call, talk to them about it, see what they have. They have some cars for sale, and they can fix yours up. Number is 317-820-3595. Bill love to talk to you, and if Fluffy's in house, she'll even talk to you too. So give him a call. My next guest is a gentleman that I have admired since he got here. He is a working man. He worked his way up, came from Argentina with very little, about what I have today, and has done phenomenally. He's got several trophy cases full of championship and event wins, and everything he gets himself into, he comes out a winner. He's the owner of Juncos Racing. Please welcome Mr. Ricardo Juncos.
Thank you, Don.
How are you?
All good. It's a pleasure to be back.
You know, it's interesting. You have the Pro 2000 cars. You have Indy Lights cars again this year, don't you?
Yeah.
And you have IndyCar, and you also have a Cadillac. Now, that's not what you drive around town, and you race it. How in the world did you get into the IMSA stuff?
I don't know. That's
you don't know?
Something that happens, but yes, I mean, we try to grow, you know, and this year has been obviously a big step forward, but a difficult one. So this has been one of the most challenging years so far that we have in racing.
Do you have the same guys that work on your Road to Indy program and your Indy car that they work on the IMSA cars?
We share some people for the IMSA program, yes, but we also hire people from outside because we make all the championship. We actually didn't make 2 races, but the intention on the beginning was to do the full season. So that means we gotta share some people, but also we have to hire people from outside.
What got you interested when you came to America? You were a chief mechanic down in Miami. What got your interest to come up here to run Speedway?
I think it was a situation that was happening on life. I mean, was not a perfect plan to say we're going to move to Indianapolis, then we're going to do this and this and this, and here we are. I mean, just happened to be the case. We were in Miami having the Pro Mazda team 2011. We're doing Pro Mazda since 2009, so we did 11 consecutive seasons. And then I came to Indy to try to purchase, there was a couple options to buy an Indy Lights team that were up to sell, and then we have a driver from Brazil willing to do Indy Lights. So while I was here, I was seeing the places, and I found out that happened to be the place to be. Obviously, when I remember I was trying to buy this team, and I was for a week in a hotel here, and I was doing numbers, calculations. If I gotta run the Pro Mazda team based in Indianapolis versus Miami, Florida, and was a big number in advantage to be here. So we said when we materialized the Indy Lights team, was obviously so much sense to move, and that's what we did. But obviously because everything is here, so you have to be here.
Now you have a team, a racing team, and you have some of your family as part of your team.
Yes, my brother, which is with me from the beginning. I mean, he's a year and a half younger than me, so everything that we did together with him. He started in Argentina as a brothers, but playing with cars and tools and as a mechanic, and still with me today. He's a Pro Mazda crew chief. I used to have my dad. He's back in Argentina now, so he come in for the Indy 500 only. I think he likes that part. I don't blame him, and then he go back to Argentina. But I have my young brother also, my youngest, was with us on the Indy 500. He's 26, and he's coming back probably in a few months to move to work with us.
He's going to come and work for you full time.
Yes, that's the intention. Obviously, he also have experience in racing through go-karts and few things in Argentina. But so that's the youngest brother. We are six, 4 boys and 2 sisters.
And if I'm not mistaken, you have a female vice president of Juncos Racing.
That's the big boss, my wife.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is in Brazil now. I don't know. I go to Brazil, so she took the little one. So my 2 ladies are in Brazil now. So I, alone with my 14 years old, imagine the catastrophic situation we are for.
Oh boy.
We're running out of food now. So now it's going to be, in a couple more days, I need to start cooking. So I don't know how it's going to go. But
she left some food for you so you don't starve to death?
She actually cooked, but it's been out for a week. So we are actually consuming everything. And now it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah. That's what I get when she leaves for 2 or 3 months. The freezers, I had to buy a second freezer to put all the stuff in. So she doesn't trust me eating mac and cheese for, a month. I think that's not a good idea. What was your goal? First off, to you, having been in the Road to Indy program for quite a while, since 2011, like you said, is it doing what it was designed to do? Do you feel that your drivers, when they, get through with Indy lights, that they are ready to move up?
I think it is doing what it's meant to be. I wish it could be even better, but I think it's growing, and like we can see next year is going to be an increase of the Pro Mazda, which now they call it Indy Pro 2000. But I'm not sure how many drivers race in IndyCar that have been through Indy lights and the road to Indy, but clearly with us was Connor Daly, Spencer Pigot, and Kyle Kaiser. From our team alone, they move up to the ladder, so now you can count in of Pato Award, Herta, Chavez, and Tristan Bautier. I mean, many drivers that through the road to Indy, New Garden, and Hinchcliffe, and the list goes on and on. So clearly the system is working, and IndyCar is working. I think is growing big time in the last few years, and I think it's going in really good now. So that's going to help, I hope, the whole road to Indy.
Well, I've been told that by the time the Speedway comes up, that there should be cars almost approaching 20, I think they're talking about, for the lights. And that's, of course, their goal. At one time, there was 26 or 27. I know Roger Bailey said if when we get 33 to start the Freedom 100, I'm going to retire. Well, he didn't quite make it. But you're in that. It took you a while, and you looked at running the IndyCar series, but you have done it. And you've gotten a start in it. You've run the 500. Are you looking to expand your IndyCar? Because I had heard a rumor that you're shutting down your IndyCar program.
I know. I heard many rumors, and it's unfortunate. To be honest, it's very sad and really, really pissed me off, this situation, because it's been a lot of rumor that we're not only closing the IndyCar program. There is people call me to buy the shop and everything, so people are believing that we are out of racing, which is absolutely not the case. And I don't know where the rumors start from. The only thing I can tell you, after Mid-Ohio weekend, and through some situations, I make some decision to put some people out of the team. But somehow people are probably not happy because of that. I don't know, but the rumor is a fake rumor. It's not good because we're working really hard for what we're doing and what to do, and everything is been, as Doug was saying, I think he actually did a nice introduction that I didn't expect, but we know each other for a long time. We are the same. I think we keep growing. And this particular year where we did the IMSA program, we recovered after crashes and destroying a car and Mosport. We put the car back together for Road America. The decision was my decision not to race Road America and Laguna Seca and put all the effort where we put Spencer Pigot in the car for the last race. And I think that was a good, smart move, thinking backwards now. And we was up to P3 on the race. We were running for a podium. Actually, we were performing because we qualified 9th, and now we are back to normal. We're performing properly. We are in P3, not because of strategy. We are P3 running actually the same strategy as the leaders. And then we have an unfortunate electronic issue again, which happened to be a mistake that we made, one of my guys. But that happened, right? So we took these big chances. So after recovering from that crash, after recovering from the Indy 500 crash, and we have only one night to put a complete disassembled car. The car was 100% disassembled and made it to the race. I think that speaks about the team. From that situation to say that we are out of business is very sad for me to hear that, but it's part of life. I think how many punch we can take. That probably is another one, and we're gonna try to keep fighting.
Well, I assume the persons I heard, and I can't remember who it was, when they walk into the speedway in May and they say, "Oh my gosh, look who's in the race! I thought they were through. They're not through."
I mean, yes, we had a white card because we supposed to have a sponsor, and I had to make the decision. The sponsor was delayed, and we was waiting for, and then the painter said, "Ricardo, we have to paint the car. We're gonna paint with the team colors. So what we're gonna do?" I said, "Well, if I decide to paint with the team colors, the sponsor's gonna say yes, and now we're gonna have all this grab car on top of the paint, and we always look for performance." So we was building this car for the last Indy 500, so almost a year to build a perfect car. And remember that we qualified 17th last year with the rookie Kyle Kaiser in front of the two Chip Ganassi cars. So for us, it was very good. Going to this year, we thought we can perform better. But then I decided, okay, if we paint the car in white, if the sponsor materialize, we can put all these sponsors on top of the car and performance will be okay. And Murphy Law happened. Obviously, we painted the car in white and the sponsor didn't happen. So now we have not in colors car and now a white car. But we throw the car on the track, and on Monday we ended up, I think, P6 or P7 on the chart after the day, and we're thinking, okay, nobody's pushing, nobody's trying anything. It must be a mistake of the transponder. And then the second day we still, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, every time alone and in traffic, we were top 10. So the performance was better than last year, as we expected. But then unfortunately, Friday morning, 2 laps in the first practice, we destroyed the car. So at that time, I thought it was a game over. But my team manager, Tom Vine, said to me, and I remember he grabbed my shoulders and said, we're gonna keep pushing. I mean, unless you stop us, we're not gonna stop. So they bring the second car, which is the one we use at Austin race at Cota. And I told the guys, let's take the gearboxes and suspension. We're gonna put everything on the trailer to have spares on the track. But they misunderstood me because they took everything apart. So it was no pedals, no steering column, no cables, no nothing. So it was a shock moment to see how the car was just a tab with few components on it. So we was facing a bad situation to put the car back together. So we coming to be always kind of P10, top 10 to last and very slow. So that was our situation going to Sunday, but things happen. I mean, I think it was 13,000 or 19,000 of the second, the difference between us and Alonso. I happened to be Alonso, so I didn't know that. I was just hoping not to crash again. That was my only hope when we're gonna qualify. We missed the Sunday morning practice, and I think that was a good decision as well because we knew what to do on the car, but we just need time. And we was not stopping, so everybody was kind of dead in my team. I was talking to them, and some of the guys was sleeping on the floor. They had no more energy. So it was not good. I mean, the situation was bad, so I was hoping not to crash again because now we're going to missing the practice. We had to go and qualify without knowing the balance and try to be proactive with the weather conditions coming from rain. So I remember the engineer put 2 options to me, little less downforce and little more downforce, and I gotta choose for because nobody wants to take that responsibility. Maybe crash again. So I remember it was -4 or -6. That's the wing angle options. And I talked to Kyle and said, Kyle, and we gotta go for right. We go with the less downforce and taking the risk. And remember that the driver has to go flat out from the beginning all the way to the checker flag. If he leaves that throttle for a little bit, we are out of the race. So in the previous lap, he has that lap to adjust whatever he needs to adjust on the sway bars and weight jacker to make sure everything is done properly. The engineers did a good job to predict the winds. So you have 4th, 5th, and 6th years. So we have everything done, and we made it. And then we worked after being on the race for that week to make that car better, and I think it was better on the race. It was not like the white one, but was much better. Unfortunately, we only complete 1/3 of the race, but and from the white car, we ended up with 15 logos. So 15 companies were displayed on the car in 2 weeks of work. So that was good to see, and never mind be out of business. So we are actually pushing really hard, and we ended up this year losing Pro Mazda and Indy Light Championship by only 2 points in Pro Mazda. We were leading the championship until the very last race, which is good to see on top of everything else we was doing. So like I always say, we try to make sure the junior programs that we have still running properly. And now we are talking to probably 8 drivers that they want to join us for next year in Pro Mazda. So maybe we go back to 4 cars next year in Pro Mazda.
Is there any chance you'll run more than just the 500 next year?
We're trying. I think what I don't want to do is just last minute deals, not probably the driver with experience, with not the proper experience. I don't want to do that anymore. I think we learn a lot. I think we prove that we can actually, to the Indy 500, the most difficult race in the history of motor racing, rebuilding a car completely overnight. And we still made it to the race. Last year we qualified 17th. We already proved that we can be fast on the technical side. Even with the DPI, we were fast as well. So from my point of view now, I think we are focused on the Indy 500 first with the proper sponsors. So we don't need to, without having the money, you limit yourself to 1 or 2 options. If I had the sponsor now, we can open up and at least maybe put a better program together. So we want to focus on the Indy 500 first, and then whatever happens after that has to be done properly. I mean, IndyCar is getting difficult that just to show up and just go and try to do something without testing, without having a driver. Like last year, we only did 1 shakedown day, and we show up to Phoenix with Kaiser last year, very first race, and we ran in 11th. We ran in 11th place. We qualified 14th, and then he hit the wall a little bit, and we didn't finish. So I think we doing proper way, we should be getting the results that we need. So that's what I'm gonna try to do next year.
Well, it had to be last year you made it, and Alonso, 2-time world champion, missed. That had to feel pretty good.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, for us, like I said, I was just hoping not to crash again. And when we made it to the race, I remember we knew that we are in the race because the people, the fans, which never happened before. Because normally the Hispanics or the Latin fans that the one following us. And when we made it to the race, I remember I look at my brother, we couldn't believe how much people are cheering from us. And then we look at the boards, and then I realized that was Alonso on 33rd place that we just pump out, and that obviously that magnifies everything, makes even bigger. And now certainly we are in every country in the planet, even China and Japan, and they send us messages in Japanese and Chinese, which obviously we don't speak. And so it's amazing. So obviously our name certainly is everywhere without even trying to. So things happen for a reason. I always say that. So what was a very, very bad situation turns around that other than the winner, I think, for us was made it to that last spot. You feel as happy as the guy winning the race, probably. I don't know. It's just amazing. My son actually asked me, why are you so happy? We are last. And why everybody is so happy? Like he was obviously pushing for. He was so disappointed, but at least that's what it takes in the 500. It's just, and it's getting difficult and difficult every year, which is nice. And now, who knows how many cars next year will be? Maybe more than 36, 37, 38. I don't know.
Well, they say they take the 33 fastest cars, and you were one of the 33 fastest.
Yeah. But,
the head is off. But, thinking back to when you started, I think you drove for a while, karts.
Yeah.
And now you're here doing this. When you look at your career, where you started, with the wrenches and all that in the hand building, setting the cars, the karts, you work your way up. And now you've got your own race shop over here. I told you when I went through the thing when you opened it, I said, I've been here 78 years and I couldn't buy that door. I got a little tiny house. So, the success you've had is phenomenal. The guys that I talk to that work for you love it. You treat them right, treat them like family. Everybody over there is family of some sort or another. And it all comes out. And that's why, when you have a problem, overnight build a car, they wouldn't do that for a lot of guys, but they did it for you.
Yeah, I think we always build this, I don't know how to call it, family environment or energy or chemical relationship between people. Like I have mechanics and we hire new guys for this Indy 500. So this is the 3rd time we do it, and 3 times pretty much 70% of the guys are different every time. And we crashed on 17 with Spencer Pigot and we turn around the car. At that time, we was only 33 cars, so we don't have this stress that we need to be also fast on the track, but we did it. So it's always good to see the way we work together and have so much energy and power, everybody. So they come in to work with us, and I guess probably because we are a little bit different. So when they come into us, they experience something different that they never experienced before, the way we are. And we try to, I explained this many times, that I try to mix a little bit the culture that we have different in Argentina than here, but take the best of the both and just put it together. And I think it's working good. But it takes time to build a proper team. I mean, it takes time to understand each other. So when we go into the Indy 500 and we have so many people in the team and so many are very, very new, I just put so much energy to try to be proactive of thinking personalities and who's going to be doing what and how it's going to be working with who, because all this is important to me. So everybody perform on the best on the technical aspect, but also they got to enjoy. So I make sure. So when we made it to the race and all the Alonso happened, I remember I just put all together, and we kind of, there is people saying that in 30 years of experience, something like this didn't happen. So we are kind of making a little bit of history here, and certainly for Argentina, obviously. So all of these people are part of something special as well. So I just try to give them all this thinking so they feel more integrated to the whole Juncos kind of family.
When you get experience, mechanics and engineers or so forth, you do things there, and it's the same everywhere. You do things differently than where they came from. Do you have trouble getting them to understand what you expect of them? And it's against what they used to do, but this is how we do it, and it's worked.
It works. I mean, you gotta lead by samples anyway. You have to prove something. No? It's not just anybody can talk, right? So you can say whatever, but when we just put samples and realities, and this is a reality, and this is the reason why. And also, I think we got so many things, at least in my life, and even when I just counting only in the United States, really bad moments that we got to turn around, and we are doing that. And when we crash, as soon as I find out that we are doing this no matter what, and we have to be ready, I'm there with them, working as much as them, so the people just follow you and go even more. So I think that's part of, I think, maybe one of the reasons, probably.
Do you does the press in Argentina follow what you do? Are they
the president or who?
No, the press.
The press. No, because yesterday, Sunday night was a presidential election in Argentina, so now we switched presidents. But yes, they follow us a lot. I mean, it's a big deal for them, because I remember when I was a kid, I followed the Indy 500, and we have all these pictures for everybody. So we follow NASCAR, we follow IndyCar. Argentina is big fan of motor racing and soccer, so that's the two big passions. So obviously everybody in the motor racing world are following me, and it's a big impact, obviously, what we did in the 500. And for Daytona race, the 24 hours, we brought the top Argentinian drivers to race with us. Agustin Canapino, we were the fastest Cadillac. We qualified only a few tenths of the top Cadillac, but our first race and his first race. But obviously we get one of the old Juan Manuel Fangio YPF sponsors, which is the petroleum company in Argentina. And that was also good for me to see that the biggest historical sponsor in our car. That was very special as well.
The 24 hours of Daytona. You like that? That's what I thought.
No, I like it's an adventure, right? So you go into a race that is, you need to try to survive. You go to survival thing. It's just, I remember right before the race, I'm very good friend with Juan Pablo Montoya, and they said, "Good luck. I hope you can survive." And I was like, "Wow!" And he was not happy. So everybody's under a lot of stress, because you go into a situation that's a totally different type of racing, which I knew is going to be different that we normally, our experience does, spring races, right? You can't compare to IndyCar or Pro Mazda or Indy Lights. It's totally different, but it's way more than you can imagine, at least for me. And all the complications and the rain and what happened with the car, many times back to the garage, but put the whole team under a lot of pressure as well, which I like to see that part, right? The whole team together. We have one issue, and then after another one, and then after another issue, and everybody is still smiling and working, and that was very good to see. I enjoy that part, but it's a different way of racing, right?
I did 3 or 4 Daytona 500s. I mean, 24 hours. And it's kind of amazing when you're standing in the infield, you look up in the grandstand, and you'd have to be a crack shot to hit me because there's not that many people up there.
No, they are not. There are a lot of
in the
people on the
infield.
garages and the infield and before the race. Obviously, the Petit Le Mans race also was huge. I mean, so many people that I was in shock. I mean, big. So IMSA is also, I think, growing, probably because the TV package they have, same than IndyCar, is, I think the numbers are growing. But I like IMSA is just so different. And the fact that you share the car with drivers, now nobody's going to have the perfect car because you cannot give, not the three drivers going to drive the same. So now you go into this 90%, 80%. From the driver point of view, they driving not on the limits. In IndyCar, you qualify in every lap. You don't care, and maybe just the last stint you save fuel, but other than that, you same than IndyCar, and that's where we came from. Same with Indy Lights and Pro Mazda. IMSA is endurance races. You share the car with a teammate. If you crash the car, now you feel sorry for your teammate. So that puts you already down. So you go into a totally different type of racing, which I'm not sure if I like much, but yeah, I like more IndyCar, flat out things, and you have the same equipment to fight against the Penske, the Ganassi. That's what I like, the challenge more than.
But you will be back running IMSA again this year.
We don't know.
Oh.
We don't know. We don't know because obviously it's a top program, so we requires a lot of money to run.
Yeah.
And the money has to come in either from drivers or from sponsors. That's what we're looking for. I'm working very hard to try to make a deal. We need 4 drivers like this year. One of the drivers came from Argentina. Like I said, an economy situation is catastrophic in Argentina. It's kind of the same situation that happened when I came to this country in 2001. And we're going through the same situation. So now I won't have the sponsor for any Argentinian driver like we did have. But we're still working on it. And we'll see. I have maybe a month left because, Daytona is just around the corner. So we maybe don't do Daytona. I don't know. We may do some races. We may do everything. We may don't do nothing at all on the IMSA, but
that's what makes racing so fun. You don't know.
I don't know. Hey, we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Can you tell me? No, right? So
it's supposed to snow.
No,
and that doesn't excite me at all, actually, because I tried to get my snowblower to start the other day and I couldn't get the damn thing to start. I hope it doesn't snow. It's been fun watching. And as you probably have noticed when you're in the pit area, I'm standing out there watching your team, what's going on, how it's going on. And I'm impressed with what you've done, what you've built, the teams you put together, the equipment. They can say anything they want about a driver, but if the crew doesn't give them a car, no matter who's driving the car, if it doesn't work. And you've been able to do that because the trophy case says you can. It's loaded. And I think I'm not so sure, but maybe Sam Schmidt didn't get out of lights because you started kicking him around. So he said, let's go do something else for a while.
Yeah, now we don't have cars, so we need him back. So.
Well, they say they're supposed to be coming. I've been told that they'll be.
I don't know.
And the double figures, getting close to 20 by the Freedom 100. But that's what I was told.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
we're only 5 cars on the open day, which was not good.
No, but they said, well, we're going to keep.
We'll see. I mean, I think it's a great series, and obviously it's a great development program, and Indy Lights cars are really nice and fun, and even the Freedom with only 8 cars, I think I don't know how many times the lead was changing. We was at the lead like 20 times, 25 times during the race, and the top 3-4 cars finished next to each other, so the Indy Lights always present, even with not many cars. And imagine if you have 15, 20 something cars, that would be great.
Yeah, but the thing I like about it, because I subscribe to NBC Gold, so I get to watch it. You don't have to go up and get a beer and come back waiting for a 9th place car to come by. They're all together.
Yeah, all together.
It's all close racing and it's all good racing. Everybody races clean in that series, strangely enough, because somebody probably said, you wrecked the car, you fix it. So, well, I admire what you've done. I'm a fan of yours, and there's a lot of people are when as you can see. When I said you were coming, I said, ooh, goody. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know.
No, thank you very much.
And Abby's saying to herself, thank God I won't hear from him for a while. I've been pestering her.
I come in twice this year, right? So this is a record.
I know.
Every time I came, I don't know, 2, 3 years.
Yeah. We'll work out next year, maybe before the season or something. We'll find out how you're doing.
Perfect. I'll be here.
This is the guy. Interesting man. If you get a chance, say hello on the way out.
Thank you.
Ricardo,
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. We will be here next week. I am told by the Speedway cable people it's a holiday because they're going to elect a mayor or some people in the town and all that. So they're off. But we plan to be here, get the equipment set up to do it. I have been in contact with a couple of people for next week. And I'm having trouble with my website. So if you look there for it, you didn't find it this week because I don't know, I've upgraded whatever it is I have and I can't figure it out. But I will eventually. But anyway, you can look in Facebook. You'll see us. Until next week, we should have. And maybe, with any luck, look at it. The Hall of Famer, Eldon Rasmussen, is here again. That's 3 weeks in a row. And he had to get, he said, extra strong and healthy because he's got Howdy sitting across from him. You got to listen to that nonsense. So we welcome Howdy as always, too. Nice of you to get out of bed in time to make it here from your nap. I hear your nap is 3-4 hours. Is that true? Oh, okay. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching, for listening, for being here. Until next week, good night. Oh, by the way, don't forget, the Mario Andretti exhibit at the Speedway Museum is winding down. There's only a couple more weeks of it. And there'll be a new one upcoming. We'll be talking to some people from this museum about it. But if you haven't seen the Mario display, get over there. It's really good. It's worth your time to watch. And if anybody's interested in going to the Hobby and Gift Show or Gift and Hobby Show, I got some tickets. Come up and see me. Till next week, thanks. Good night.